One of the hardest things as an artist or any content creator is when you have a huge hit, it's like, where do I go from here? And how do I feel about the results of said video that comes out afterwards, or any video or any song?
Or any
Because
piece,
now
yeah.
you've put yourself at this point. And I get it all the time too, where some people will be like, oh, well, not as good as Grandmaster Run. And I'm like, dude.
This is Inside the Scene, the show that explores the stories and challenge from the professional side of esports, talking to those with accomplished careers and finding out how some turn passion into more than just a hobby. I'm your host, Drekken, and on today's show, how a forum post led Temp0 to produce some of the most viewed StarCraft 2 inspired songs on YouTube. But to start, I got a question for you. If you wanted one of your projects to go viral, how would you do it? Better yet, could you do it? Some would say you need a lot of luck, but I would go say it goes further than that. I believe you need to know how to resonate with people. Kwame Sokodia Mensah, better known as Temp0, released a song that did just that. Resonate to the view of 3.8 million people. And it goes something like this.
When I'm Grandmaster, I will play faster. They'll call me Bonjour, just like my name was Flash.
Before he releases his viral hit Grandmaster, Temp0 grew up with his siblings in Massachusetts, USA, trying to find his musical voice. One of his siblings is would-be WWE wrestling superstar Kofi Kingston, who goes on to inspire Temp0 to pursue his own passions. So let's hear that story of how someone finds their niche and connects with millions of people all over the world. Inside the Scene with Temp0. What's it like growing up in Massachusetts, USA?
Oh man. So they call us massholes for a reason. I am not. I say I'm pretty good. I have a pretty decent, humble demeanor. But growing up in Massachusetts, it's like, it's a love-hate relationship, man. Because the reason, like in New England in general, which is like, a couple of states in this area, the weather is so unpredictable that you never really know what you're going to get. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's one of those places where, you never really get that comfortable. So you kind of learn how to be uncomfortable or predict or I guess expect the unexpected and the unpredictable pretty much.
Has that actually been a part of your life? Have you incorporated that kind of mentality into?
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. Absolutely. You know what I mean? It's like one of those, like when you start, even rapping for me, like freestyling.
Yeah.
Expect the unexpected, right? Like you have to kind of just always be on your game and never ever expect that you're gonna have this perfect rhyme scheme or any words that are gonna come out. At least for me, when it comes to music, I kind of just like drop the music thing right there, right? Like but it's true. It kind of keeps you on your toes for the most part, and not being at least uncomfortable when the unfamiliar hits you either, right? Like you kind of go with the flow, and I'm a very go with the flow kind of guy. Where it's like, all right, well, it rained yesterday, it's 94 the next day, but then it hailed and snowed, the day after that. So it's like, I'm always kind of like, whatever, that happened. It is what it is.
Then
My motto.
How did you get into music? What brought you to music?
Oh man. Well, first of all, I never was really into music growing up. Elementary school. I remember my brother played me a DMX CD when he was playing Madden.
Right.
And I cried. I literally started crying like, why is he saying all of those bad words?
Oh my God.
Oh, I don't understand. And music was not part of my life in elementary school. But I don't know what it was that actually like made me want to start doing music. But there was a point in time in middle school where I got this Radio Shack mic, okay, and I had a sock, okay, which is a pop filter.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I was like,
so I took
wait.
this. Yep, I know it sounded weird. It sounded weird at first. I know. But I put the sock over the pop, or rather the sock over the Radio Shack mic, and I was listening to that. Well, at least I think I reflected on that moment when I started crying because my brother didn't let me live it down. Like he didn't like comfort me. He was just like, "You're crying. Like they're just words, And I'm like, okay, but they're bad words, Kofi. Like what? Why would you listen to that? And I kind of just really fell in love with hip hop, the lyrical part of it. You know what I mean? So I ended up stealing a CD case, and it had a Cannabis album in it, which is a very lyrical rapper. He uses a lot of big words for no reason, but they, it sounds good. He has this very aggressive delivery, and he's like, hypothetically, mathematically, with the thing, with the capacity to hit you in the apple tree and I'm like, that sounds really good to, middle school Kwame right now. So I'm like, all right, I think I can get my microphone with the sock and do something like that as well. And, ended up just recording random stuff and burning CDs and passing them out in middle school. And people were like, dude, that is so sick. And actually liked it.
With the Cannabis album, was that you trying to mimic? Did you see that as like a person or an idol you wanted to be like, or?
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure, dude. I played Phantasy Star Online. So I had a 6 CD disc changer, okay? And I would have this, there were 2 Cannabis albums that I would listen to on repeat, and then like I think that DMX album that made me cry. And then like some other like, random albums that I just would listen to. Like Ludacris was a big influence to me too, because I loved his kind of just, he was a big personality. You know what I mean? Like
he was just very bold. I love Ludacris.
Bold, and oh man, it was just fun to listen to. And he showed me the other side of it. So like I saw that lyrical side of it, and then I also saw like the kind of just, it doesn't matter how big the words you say, but how big you say those words too, right? Like he would enunciate things and just boom. And I'm like, okay. And I'd play Phantasy Star Online until like 5 o'clock in the morning with this 5 CDs or 6 CDs in rotation, and just kind of absorb it. I would just absorb it and memorize, and the flow patterns and cadences and delivery. There was so many different aspects to it that I was just so infatuated with, dude. It was one of those things that was like, all right, I can incorporate this, because I have experience as well. They might not be as cool as yours right now because I'm only like 12, but I still can talk about, my first crush not saying yes when I asked her to go to the dance, stuff like that. But, emotion, really portraying emotion, and people going through the same kind of thing at the same time that relate to it too is what really got me addicted to that wordplay.
How did you learn that music was experiences? Like, how did you translate that to you, that music was experiences?
I believe so. Like, how a lot of people have diaries or journals when they're growing up in elementary school or middle school, or even like now, who knows? I'm sure, right? But it was that. It was more so when I stopped. So when I first started, I was emulating the people that I was inspired by, right? And not really drawing from my own personal experiences. But then when I started writing, like my feelings, you know what I mean? You have a lot of angst when you're growing up. I realized that it was an outlet, like a big outlet, big time. Because I didn't really like talk about my feelings with a lot of people, you know what I mean? Like I was more reserved actually growing up, a lot more so than I am now.
You're the exact opposite now.
Oh yeah, you know what I mean. Like I really don't. I'll say whatever is on my mind and say whatever. But like back then, I had a lot of not even like pent up rage, but it was just like confusion and things going on and all these kind of things that come with growing up. and I really didn't know how to express it that well. And I used to write on my mom's it wasn't a MacBook at the time because they weren't even out. It was a Macintosh computer that I would just write stories on, and I started just writing things that rhymed in middle school. And then when I put it to a beat and like heard myself back and then played it for my friends, and they were like, yo, man, that's so sick, man. Yo, put that on a CD. I want to listen to that.
Did you?
I was like, oh, I did. I burnt it onto these, the Memorexes back then.
Yeah, I remember
The
them.
Memorex. Yep. So I started doing that, and then I would collab with people on the internet. There was a site called SoundClick that you could release your music on for free, and I would just put myself out there, and people would be like, "Dude, you're nice with it," or "Hey, do you want to collab?" Or "Man, I really felt that," or there were so many different things that I never heard before from people.
Yeah.
And these are things that like are coming from me, so if I give like a life experience at 13 years old and somebody's like, yeah, man, I really felt that, probably another 13-year-old, but hey, man, it starts it off. Definitely the spark right there, right?
So what is one of you, we talked about angst and teenage angst and not expressing, and so what would you say is the thing that comes to your mind that represents the angst that you had to get out,
Oh man.
What is
all right, so my parents ended up, they had a complicated relationship, right?
Like parents do.
Yeah, right. So like in my mind, I didn't really get it at all, but I could see these kind of things that are happening in the household. And my parents did divorce when I was in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up moving with my mom. You know what I mean? So like it was one of those things where I was like, dude, mom, I want to stay here because it was more comfortable for me in the town that we lived in at the time. But my mom was moving away and my dad was staying in the place that I had grown up at for the most part of my life. And there was this one thing that she said to me. She was like, no, like, Mom, Kwam, I'm not leaving you, is what she said, and I was like, you're not leaving me though, you're right down the street. But I didn't understand like that distance as far as what it would be and like how their relationship was severed at the time. Yeah. Right.
Wait, were you going to live with your mom or staying with your dad? What was?
So they were both together at the time.
Right.
Right. And then when they were divorcing, I didn't understand the concept of it at the time. Right. So then she was like, yeah, I'm moving to, she said Malden, which is a place that I have a lot of great memories and where I ended up moving to. But at the time, I'm like, no, Mom, I'm staying here. I'm going to finish school. I'm going to skateboard at the half pipe and I'm going to make my music from a Radio Shack mic. And what's the deal? Like, what's the big deal? She's like, I'm not leaving you, is what she had said. Because at the time, it was more my dad being more, the problem at the time.
Yeah.
But, he got his shit together over that period of time, luckily.
Is that a moment where your mother's trying to reassure you that you guys are staying together, even though you don't quite understand, but she understands. She knew the full gravity of the situation, and she wanted to make sure that you knew.
Exactly. Okay. And she's such a huge impact in my life now. You know what I mean? But that was like one of the things when I did realize it that I kind of would use as, fuel, not even like in a bad way, but just for when you emotionally charge a song or lyrics, you kind of draw on these kind of experiences that you go through. And it kind of let me open myself up as well to understanding things more than just kind of being as, I'm obviously happy-go-lucky for the most part, but I do it in a in a way where I understand like, the gravity of situations and the weight of words and stuff like that, where it let me see my mom in a different light, because she had always been like working on her dissertation. She was very focused, and I saw her work ethic and believed that like, okay, I get what she's saying now, where it's like I might lose or quote unquote lose my friends right now, but change is not the worst thing in the world. And she needs me.
Did you learn that at that time, or did you feel
Oh,
something
man.
differently and then look back and understand that?
Looking back on it and understanding it, at the time, all I knew was that she needed me. And when she had said, "I'm not leaving you," I'm like,
What was your feelings at that time? Were you, because I put myself in your shoes, and I was
Mhm.
angsty at young age, so I would have
Yeah.
felt resentful personally.
Yeah. Oh man. At first, I was.
Right.
I was super pissed. I'm like, what do you like? You can't take me from here. This is
Right.
like all my friends are here. You know what I mean? And like we
Right.
had this half pipe that was there that I loved, that I grew up skateboarding on. That I have like my base for all of the tricks that I even do today.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I thought she was being selfish a little bit too
Yeah.
in my mind. And then for some, it took, it was like the first day was like that. The first day I was just like, no, I'm not. What are you talking about? Like
I'm
I'm
not
staying.
leaving. Yeah, I'm not going
No,
anywhere.
it took me about a week to really kind of process it, I guess,
That's amazing.
because I talked to my sister as well, and she was going through her own thing at
Right.
the same time. And one of her things was that like me, or rather her and my dad had like issues too at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I started like putting two and two together a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember this one day just being like, man, I really don't want to leave here, which is Burlington, in Massachusetts. So this is all in Massachusetts. So it
Yep.
wasn't like we're moving like state to state.
No, but you're leaving cities.
Cities. And then when you're a kid, that's pretty freaking big.
It might as well be on the other side of the world.
Exactly. So, but I did realize that. And when that had happened, or at least when I had that realization, it was more so like, okay, well, I guess, being the new kid at school is kind of cool. I have a new opportunity to kind of just like really just start over in a way, right? Even though like at the time I wasn't in a bad spot at all. But I also had that curiosity as far as like starting at a new place and that, embracing of that discomfort, when you go to a new school.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, man, the places that I grew up in, I was probably 1 to 4 of the black kids in those schools. And like, I made my name, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Like that's Kwame.
Was there a bit of a tokenism in that way? Because where for me, especially when you're in an all-white school and you're 1 of 4, there's a level of which they want that black kid in their group or
exactly. And that was it, right? So like I built myself to that where it's like, who's this kid? Oh, he's kind of cool. He's black. Damn. Oh, yo, man, like you rap? Wow, surprise. Like and I didn't know I'm an innocent kid and I don't really like take all that. But I had a lot of ups and downs when it came down to even like my skin color in these places as well. And the place that my mom was moving to was a lot more diverse.
Right.
And I didn't know that at the time, but I think one of the things that helped me, at least after the fact, was that I have lived in so many different places that, I can adapt and it's not necessarily like, being that token, like that's what makes me cool. You know what I mean? It's like, this kid, regardless of his skin color, he's just a kind of down to earth kind of guy. And, he listens to people and, accepts people for who they are no matter what. And I don't judge in that sense. And I learned a lot of that from, my mom.
Did you ever have to feel like you're fighting against those stereotypes a lot? The stereotypes that come with it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like a lot of the times when it came down to even skateboarding, like a lot of people like, whoa, is StarCraft even, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I didn't even know black people played StarCraft. You know what I mean? Like certain, even video games, because I was a huge nerd. Like when it came down to it, like I loved video games, but I was still out and, skateboarding. I did track, I played football for a little bit. So a lot of people would, expect me to do X, Y, and Z. But then like, a lot of my passions were A, B, and C, you know what I mean? So it was like skateboarding is a big passion for me, video games, big passion for me. Music, at least that, I didn't really get any pushback on that side of things, but it wasn't necessarily like, rap that I always wanted to do. Sometimes I wanted to do even like punk rock. I like a lot of music. After that DMX CD, like I really got exposed to different genres of music and fell in love with, guitar. I fell in love with like Dream Theater. I fell in love with like Blind Guardian. There were just these random bands and things that like people wouldn't necessarily expect a brother like me to like. But I was like, you know what?
What's the weirdest, or not, I shouldn't say weirdest, is not the right word, but what's the most unexpected piece of music that you like that people would say, yeah, no way? What is the weirdest?
Okay, maybe even you might think it's weird, but growing up, Bullet for My Valentine, which is like this emo scream. Screamo. If you look up Bullet for My Valentine, they were my favorite band. And I'll tell you why I love them so much, okay?
Please.
So there was two reasons why I love them so much. When you're listening to their music, and this isn't about like early 2000s or so, when you listen with the headphones, they would have like a lead guitar in like one ear, and then have like another guitar playing in your right ear. So like if your headphones were messed up, you would only get like one half of the song.
Oh.
When it came down to the melody.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Yeah. So like this like blew my mind at that age, right? Because I'm sitting there and like, you're hearing here, and then like and like that combination right there.
Right.
Really like it just blew my mind. And then when I learned how to like mix and recording and the idea of panning and stereo sound and how much of an experience it is when things come together and blend well,
right,
it definitely shaped a lot of the ways that I mix as well. So it's weird. I don't know if you'll even notice it, but there are certain songs, if you listen to my Tempo YouTube, that I do this a little bit.
What song? Weird. Could you even?
So Just a Wish is a big example.
Okay.
Like a lot of the if all of this could happen.
Yes.
Okay. And then like there was even Just Hit Play. Just Hit Play, if you listen to Just Hit Play, it was like different octaves, I would say. You know what I mean? So sometimes it'll be harmony, sometimes it's different octaves, and just like playing with that, the sonosphere, when it comes down to mixing music or recording it in the same way too.
You have music as an influence, your mother as an influence. Mm-hmm. What about your siblings? How did they influence you?
Oh man, so much. Kofi is probably my biggest inspiration. He's the professional wrestler, of course. But this was before he was a wrestler. I'll tell you right now. He would have been
just your big brother at that time.
Oh my God. And I'll tell you, the reason why he's a professional wrestler is because he was my big brother. All right. So I demand a check every week. No, I'm just kidding. But like, he would be the type that like, it's like, hey, Quam. Oh, help. I'm like, what? And I run downstairs and then they like wrap me up in a sleeper hold straight up. And then like put me in a figure four. And I'm just like, dude, and I fall for it every single time. But then like, you'd see just his work ethic and personality. He taught me how to like be funny and like not take things too seriously as well, but also how to take pain. Like he taught me how to withstand pain, man. Like this dude. And over the course of his life, just watching him and what he did, like he ended up actually graduating from BC. So I saw him. He had an academic background too. Mm-hmm. He ended up working at the Staples headquarters for a year or so and was just like miserable and didn't like it at all. And him just being like, look, man, I'm not happy where I'm at. I'm going to make my life better and I'm going to pursue my dream and I'm going to make it happen. He's like the first person that I saw literally that is next to me do that.
Your brother comes across as this very much of like, I'm going to move mountains to the things I want kind of guy.
I would say so, but he's so humble about it. Like he literally moves mountains, but he just kind of like,
kind of like,
I'm just going to put it over here though, But that's how he is. And then I think his humility is something that I've adopted a lot.
Right.
So when it comes to influence, as far as siblings, the humility from my brother and ability to at least make things happen without like coming across as this like asshole, I guess, right? Like, you know, like some people like get to the top by any means necessary.
Stepping on whoever.
Others, yes. And he would bring people up a lot of the time. And, you know, he even does it now at his level in WWE, where he kind of is like, you know, yeah, we lost that match and all, but dude, these guys, you know, they're on the up and up, man. And like, it was nice to have this great match with them because now we built their character and their storyline, and now they have some hype going for them.
That's really,
it's stuff like that where I adopt it so much, where it's like, okay, I love that. You know what I mean? Because not everybody's like that. And it's a bit rare to at least find it to be genuine, right? Because you can hear it. People can say certain things, but if you don't feel it, or if they're not really about it like that, then really, what is it, right? So I've kind of adopted that in a sense where it's like, okay, I really believe in bringing everybody up. I really believe in uplifting people. I really do believe in, you know, getting to a certain point of excellence without having to shit on somebody else's come up.
Lift them up as you're going up, right?
And if you can't lift them up, don't push them down.
Don't push them down at the same time.
At least, right? So it's stuff like that. Little things, you know, little kind of I don't know the word for it, but I almost said proverbs, but it's not a proverb. It's like, you know, just little tidbits that you kind of
like
pick
lessons,
up on.
like morals.
Lessons, indeed. Morals,
and values.
exactly. Values, indeed. So it's stuff like that, you know, the mentality and having it be part of your character without even trying. So like when sometimes, you know, I will, you know, just be me. And someone is just like, no, I'm not even kidding. I'll just be me. And then someone is just like, man, like you have like this kind of like aura to you. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, I guess, you know, but I appreciate that, man, because I'm just trying to do me and just make as many people happy as possible while also making myself happy at the same time, you know? So
now
it's something.
What about your sister?
Yeah, my sister, she is like my spirit animal, man. So for those don't know, my sister did end up passing away, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And she was like a wild child, man. Like she was my polar opposite, but also my, you know, familiar at the same time. You know
like
what I mean?
Patronus? Like your Patronus?
Yeah. But it's so true, right? Like there's so many aspects of her that like, you know, we would just feed off of each other all the time. Like we were just two, you know, what do they say? Two peas
in a pod? Is that
2 peas in a pod? But like, you know, I was like the white pea and she was like the black pea for the most part, right? The black eyed pea. And she would always be getting in trouble, you know, she would always be pushing her limits and like pushing boundaries and whatnot.
Was she older than you? Or was
she was younger than me.
She was younger. Okay, so you're the middle child?
Middle child, indeed.
Okay.
Yep. So she was like that type, you know, going to this place called Building 19, which is like the most, if you think of like a thrift shop, okay, where things are really cheap and very affordable, she would still go to this place and like shoplift from Building 19. I'm like, yeah, she's always working. She always has a job. She would always, you know, have money.
She had money.
I'm like, yeah, like, what are you doing? Like, you know, I don't know, it's just fun. Like, you know, I'm like, yeah, like, stop. Like, all you need to do is like, pay for the shit and stop getting in trouble. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're not gonna get, you know, mom's not gonna be mad at you, dad's not gonna be mad at you. She's like, I don't know, you know, just gotta, you know.
And I'm like, fire, just like a fire, like
yes.
and
this isn't like, yeah, you know, high school stuff too. Yeah. I think some people go through that phase as well. But yeah, she definitely grew out of that. But it was funny because like she had a much more difficult life than I did, though. You know what I mean? Like she ended up getting taken by DSS, which is like child services, at some point in her life too. She lived in this home, you know, that I forget what it was actually called, but a bunch of girls that maybe had issues in the domestic side of things.
Okay.
And she had those experiences that I never really had because I didn't really like get in trouble growing
Right.
up for the most part.
So you were
But,
kind of like you were the like you said you were the white to her black, so you probably didn't get caught up into it, but you
yeah,
had to observe it though. You had to see
observe it and also absorb it at the same time
Yeah.
too, where it's like I see what she's going through, and that would always be there for her, and talk. And she would I was her confidant in those kind of things where it came down to like why she's doing these things, you know what I mean?
Of course.
So it was more so like that. And that also gave me another perspective as well, because I'm a listener at the same time, as much as I like to talk. But I really love to listen to people's experiences, and I love to kind of be like, hey, okay, what's your perspective and why? Like, what's the reasoning for it? Or I try to make sense out of a lot of things. And even for her, it was just like, okay, so there were certain things that she was frustrated with, you know what I mean? Like the family situation, why the whole divorce thing, she might have saw it more than I did. I feel like I was kind of just oblivious to certain things growing up. But she kind of lived through it as well and gave me that perspective too. So I kind of was her protector for a little bit, but at the end of the day, if she could say words today, she would be like, no, I was his protector. Like she was the funny one like that, right? Like if any of her girlfriends looked at me, she's like, no, don't mess with her. What are you talking about? No, that's my brother. No, absolutely not. No, she's the worst. No.
She had all the shit personality, strong personality.
She had a lot, very strong personality.
Very fiery.
Incredibly fiery. And unfortunately, yeah, she did pass. But she definitely left a crazy impact on me.
You carry that with you, like everywhere now. I imagine that mixed into your music and into your life. And so let's going into like StarCraft and bringing your music into StarCraft. How did you come about deciding to make that first leap combining StarCraft and your music? Your first song that the community ends up knowing about is obviously, Thank God for Day 9.
Yeah.
Cool. How do you make this leap? What's your thoughts at this time when you first start to make that song?
Yeah. So when I first started playing StarCraft 2, first of all, my two best friends growing up would always play the beta. So we're in college, okay? And I'm trying to go out and like party and stuff, and they would be up in their apartment just playing StarCraft 2 beta. I'm like, what do you guys like, dude? Come out! Like, what are we doing? Like, they're like, dude, shut up. I'm like, we're trying to win. It's their 2v2. They ended up showing me this Day 9 blip.tv, and I watched all of them. I just started watching it, and I wouldn't even go out. My friends would be like, hey man, we're gonna go out and drink and do this, and I'm like, yeah, I gotta do some homework. And then I just watched Day 9 dailies, man, because he was just so entertaining, and I loved his personality. And I ended up even watching it up to this King of the Beta tournament, which was the one that capped off before StarCraft 2 came out. I watched it. Husky was casting it, I believe. JP was casting it, I believe. And DJ Weed, I think, as well. A couple of others, the old school, the OGs and whatnot.
The old guard.
And I was like, dude, this game, and I'm starting to understand it more, and I'm getting the GOM TV passes and whatnot and staying up to watch it. And I'm loving this freaking game. And I don't even have it. I don't even have the game, Drek. Like, I have no idea. I'm like, dude, like, I'm a broke-ass college kid, and I'm just watching this game. And it's not even out yet at the time. So it ends up. So it was the beta. I didn't get invited into it because I didn't like sign up for it because I didn't, it wasn't in my radar. It wasn't on my radar. Yeah, but John and Chris ended up buying it for me. They ended up literally saying, hey man, you've been kind of, digging the whole Day 9 dailies, right? I'm like, hell to the yeah, I've been digging the Day 9 dailies. So then they bought it for me for my birthday, because my birthday's in August, but they bought it for me on the day that it came out, on July 27th. And after that, boom, game over. Started playing it, went right onto the ladder. They said, don't even do the tutorial, just jump on the ladder. And Team Liquid, they introduced me to, had this contest to make a fan art music or something for Day 9, right? Appreciation. And I'm like, you know what? I do a little bit of music here and there. I'm going to go look for a little beat. I got a little bit of history on this Day 9 guy. So I ended up, taking my experiences from the dailies only. I never met the guy. And just kind of just thanked him and said, dude,
Yeah.
I appreciate you for, this kind of new game that I've never had any interest in before. But you literally took something that was nothing for me, and now it's this crazy passion, and I got obsessed. I had this obsession with like the improvement factor, just the complexity and how he would break things down and cast it and commentate it and make it fun to actually watch. So I ended up doing that, made the song, Thank You Day 9, posted it on Team Liquid, like, all right, here's my shot. Didn't even think about it, I just was like, yeah. And it ended up, actually getting a lot of traction. Yeah, people were like, what the yeah. So it was something, thanks to my boys John and Chris and the King of the Beta tournament and all of Day 9's hosted VODs on blip.tv, man.
Shout outs to
Before Twitch was a thing, man. Before Twitch was a thing. But Day 9, yeah, he bleeds passion like that, and I kind of absorbed it and then put it back out into the universe in song form.
On a Monday, he makes it fun to play. Everyone make memes of the number J. You're living a dream, I just want to say, hey, thank you, Day 9.
And then you went on after that, though, to, that blows up in January, gets released. But then you go on like a tirade of releasing song after song. But then you release Dan and then the next Prince of the Lair shortly after. In February.
It became an addiction there too.
So between Thank God for Day 9, you release it, you get great feedback. What goes through your mind before you write Dan?
You know what happened with Dan? Do you know how Dan even came to fruition?
No, that's what I'm hoping you're going to tell me.
So Dan, okay, there was literally like this post on Team Liquid, all right, where some kid said something like, it was like, the threads where people will like add lyrics and stuff, or they'll like kind of like make a thread and then it's like a joke at the time.
Yeah.
And I think what someone had done was say something like, and his name was Dan or something like that. And then they started doing like, like the hook. And they started doing these little lyrics
in the replies,
in a thread form and replies.
Okay.
Right?
We still do this on Reddit. This is still a Reddit thing that people do all the time. Okay. Yeah.
Well, this happened on Team Liquid. And then, Smix replied as well and was like, oh, you know what? This actually has a little bit of potential. And she had, I don't know if she recorded it or said like she would record it or do something.
Yeah.
And did like a little like snippet of her singing like the actual chorus.
Yeah.
And then I'm like,
Uh-oh. Yeah.
I think I could actually do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I can make this come to life. And I did. I was like, I'm going to do this, man. I'm going to actually do this, dude. And then, I contacted Smix. This was back when we were all just a bunch of Team Liquid plebs, just kicking it on a
PMs
forum about a game
Liquid.
that we that we like.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And then that built that relationship with Smix as well. And she ended up recording the full chorus, and I linked up with Suspense, who did another song called Day 9 Made Me Do It. At the time.
Okay. It's like your first
that's
collab.
How I linked up with him. Yep, first collab. And I'm like, yo, Suspense, man. I don't know you like that, bro, but would you like to be Idra? Because I got this ill-ass idea, okay? Where like Dan is literally Stan, all right? Yeah. Tasteless is his little brother that you said no to, and you're the Grack. So I was like, shot in the dark, maybe so. Reached out. He said, yeah, of course I'll do that, dude. And
did you pitch it like that? Did when you pitch this like PM, Was it
I
formatted
wasn't
like,
that.
yo, I don't know you, but
It was a I don't know you kind of deal, but I said I really big. I said I'm a big fan of that Day Nine Made Me Do It song, because that was actually a parody that he did for Ice Cube's Gangsta Rap Made Me Do It. And he goes, Day Nine made me do it. And when I heard that at the end of one of Day Nine streams, I think that was one of the biggest things that inspired me to even do some of the songs that I did as well. Because I'm like, wow, you can actually
like the parody
make
idea, the idea of like
the
parody.
parody idea for
Okay.
video games, though. For video games, though, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like actually talking, rapping about video games and making it sound cool and fun.
Yeah.
And that was it. Because I mean, I remember watching a daily. That's really what it was. I should have said that earlier, but I listened to it at the end of a daily because I thought the daily was over, and then I was about to shut it off. And then on the credits, or not the credits, but like the outro scene, whatever, after you do like a stream,
Yeah.
he plays Suspense's song, and I'm listening to it. I'm like, boom, 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 boom. When that shit hit, I was like, this is kind of going hard right now, right? And I'm listening to it. I'm like, okay, who is the Suspense guy? And then it was a couple weeks later that the whole Dan thing had happened, and I'm like, I know the man for the job. That I'm gonna have somebody else.
And so you link
And
up.
that's how it was. Yeah,
You link up with Smix. You link up with Suspense, and you put together Dan. Did he get the response you were expecting?
it did. It actually did, and I didn't even know what I was expecting at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm over here starting my YouTube, and anytime one person subscribes to it, I'm like, yes, like somebody subscribed, like yes, and I'm like so happy and thankful and grateful. But we had released it, and I did the video for it. It was like the most bootleg video on my Canon, like Pixma. I don't even know what it was, but
Dear Intra, I PM'd you, but you still ain't replied. I left my BNet address and my character code inside. I sent 2 PMs back in beta, they must have not arrived. I was so proud but sad inside when you were beating Clyde. Sometimes I get
it was so bootleg, bro. But it was awesome. It was like genuine,
Yeah.
like passion of making the song come to life.
Did you have any aspirations of, at this time, did you have any aspirations of becoming like a full-time artist, anything like that? No, it was just
Nope, not in this sphere. At first I was like, yeah, one day I'm gonna be an ill rapper. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it was more, just like making music and doing random stuff.
Yeah.
It didn't have any direction to it at all. But once this had happened with these kind of like collabs and really like making these things happen, and it's linked to something that I'm genuinely interested in,
Yeah.
it started to just be like, wow, this is really cool. And all I wanted to do was just, get more subscribers. I was like, yeah, cool, subscribe and like more, because I'm gonna keep on making the songs, but I don't expect to make money off of it. Like I'm not thinking about that at the time. I'm just like, I just want people to like it.
And
then yeah.
So you are going on a spree of making these songs. And so what's your process like to write a song like this? What's your process to kind of come up with the lyrics? Because obviously you did Thank God Day 9, you had to draw from your experience with
and that wasn't
Day
a
9.
parody either.
That was an original. That's
yeah.
original. Which I imagine is like the hardest to kind of produce.
Yeah.
And so,
it is, yeah.
So how do you come up with the lyrics for your songs that you need to draw experiences from?
It really comes down to the song itself, right? So if I can start the song off with Thank God for Day 9, right? I have so much material about why I love Day 9.
Yeah.
Right? So that in its own right, even though it's an original, it's not that hard for me to do it, because I can kind of just say I have so many things that I can draw from. So many things. It's just about making it rhyme and then having it be fun, or the flow. Dan, I think was, even it being a parody, was a little bit harder, to be honest, because I had to kind of adhere to the song structure of Stan by Eminem, right? And then also not go off. you know what I mean? Like I have to have the story that I'm telling right here.
Yeah.
So I'm literally telling a story and having it be seamless, right? Like I can't just throw in some random ass bar that just doesn't make sense. And someone's like, dude, that didn't like it has to work. So I kind of just put a framework first, right? When it comes to a story, I know what the end goal is. I already know where I'm ending at. I know where I'm starting at, and I know the process of the actual first song when it comes to a parody, right? So Stan, I have a kid that is literally obsessed, with his idol.
Yeah.
And all he wants him to do is acknowledge him. And now I need to be like, okay, sorry about my dog, I apologize, but I can make this happen, right? But now I also have to make it funny because we're not just trying to have this like, oh man, the super obsessed fan, and then it's a sad story,
No.
We want to make it like we gotta give it a little lighter mood to it,
right?
But also make it funny at the same time, so I can incorporate different members of the community where it comes down to Grak, Idra, comes down to Dan, Artosis, and it comes down to Nick, Tasteless, right? So I can kind of have this big open kind of field that I can just pick from,
right?
And that's what my process. It comes down to just trial and error of that line. I have the lyrics for the original song here. What would make sense here at the same point of it? You know what I mean? So it might be a long process, but I at least have a guideline when it comes down to a parody. But with that one, I put my own guideline with the story, and I never deviate from the story. You know what I mean? Like I gotta stay on point.
So you write down the story first, and then fill out
the idea of the story.
The idea
and then
of the story.
Rhymes come. Yes.
Okay, you go from the idea,
and then sometimes points of the story come up without you even knowing it. You're just sitting there like messing around, and then you hear a part of the original song, and then you're like, "Oh my god, something just happened there. Something clicked. Oh my god, that rhymes. We waited in the blistering sands for you for 4 hours, and you just said no." Like, oh, when that hit, I was like, yes. And then that inspires you to keep on going, and then you're like, all right, we can keep this going, and you take it one step at a time.
Are you writing? Like, are you listening to the song, the original song, over and over again, and like writing down?
Sometimes.
Okay.
And other times, I'm just in the shower, and I'm like, oh, well, that line just came up. Oh, I'm driving to work. Oh. Because at the time, I was working full-time in finance, man.
Finance? Ooh.
Yep. I was working at Circuit City headquarters, man. Fun times.
So how do you capture those songs, those lyrics that just floating in the air? How are you capturing? They just
float. So usually I would always have a notebook at the time. Nowadays, I just have my phone, and I can put it in like Google Docs or, Keep Notes is what it's called on my Pixel, but sometimes, yeah, I'm in the shower. I don't have my phone on me, and I have to remember it, and then write it on the window. Write it on the window. Yeah, but yeah, it's the mind is always working. You know what I mean? And one time, sometimes you forget lyrics.
Yeah,
and then sometimes new lyrics come out of nowhere. So it's not like there's always one solidified way to do it. Because Dan could be a whole different song depending on what day it was. It's weird, isn't it? Weird to think like that, where it's like
depending on how like the wind blew to you that day would determine how the song could have turned out.
Yeah, and I've learned that as an artist too, that like you can't get too caught up in making the perfect song.
Yeah,
because when you make it and you complete it, that is what the song is, and that's what the people associate it with, right? So it's like that was a tough thing for me, man. Where I stopped making music for a bit because I wanted things to be like perfect.
Yeah.
And I realized that perfection is really just in the eye of the beholder. And sometimes,
how did you wrestle that? So how did you get to that answer?
Which one?
That obviously you hit a wall about perfection, and you still wanted to be perfection. You wanted your stuff to come out perfect. But how did you overcome that? Because some people would just get stuck there forever. They would never leave.
Yeah. Okay, so it was actually other people that helped me in that aspect. Chan Man V, if you remember him.
I do remember Chan Man V.
He told me, he's like, dude, you have to understand, okay? Kwam. And he calls me, Kwame. Like, he won't tell me he won't call me Tempo. But he's just like, making a song or just putting something out is better than hanging up and trying to make like the most perfect version of the song in your mind, because guess what, in your mind that's not what everybody else's mind is. Like, people just want to hear what you have to say, and usually what you've having a pretty decent track record that what you put out is going to be all right, at least. So yeah, I think it's weird, man, for me at least, where I realized that, where it's like, you know what, once you sit down and just write, it comes. It literally comes, you know what I mean? And if you get stuck on something, you move on to the next like bar, and then let the rhyme sit. And then when it comes, it'll come. And then the words that are coming out are actually like, they're pretty dope, like it's it's just fun, if you're having fun with it and you're doing it and it comes from a place of passion, or it doesn't feel like you're just trying to just only get it done, I guess. When it comes out and you deliver it the way that you want to deliver it, people are gonna resonate with it regardless, you know what I mean? Like, people aren't gonna nitpick and be like, well, actually that was a slant rhyme, and whereas in my mind I'm like, no man, they're gonna criticize it and they're gonna say that Z actually rhymed with the soft S, and like, oh man. But
did you have a fear of that? A lot of fear of criticism?
Oh my god, yeah, I did, yeah. I don't know why. Like, as someone that kind of doesn't necessarily care too much about what people think, you can't help but care what people think, right? So
is that like, it feels like an artist syndrome in general because I feel like you put your heart into your work, and there's a fear that people will trample on that heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
At least this is from my perspective, because
no, you're absolutely right though. Like, that's the biggest fear, right? When you hit that button where it's like, all right, I just completed it. I hope they like it, and then if they don't, I don't know. Like, what do I do? But it's not the end of the world either. Like, and to be honest, this might be a good lesson right now for me, because it has been a little bit since I've released a full YouTube song. I put a couple things on SoundCloud, but some of it does come down to like, man, it's just not perfect, or this or that. Yeah. And I need to get out of that mentality as well right now. It's not just a thing that I've overcome completely.
I think we're, as creators, we're always struggling to like, we get into points where we like do really amazing and we're good, and then we kind of like fall, and then we have to like get that momentum back again and do almost in spurts.
Or like, you want your comeback to be like freaking mind-blowing. Like, this has to be like When I'm Grandmaster 2.0, but
yeah.
Oh, it doesn't necessarily have to be, like, you don't try to replicate your past successes in that aspect of it, but you just kind of at least take the same feeling and inspiration and at least approach to how you did that, right, to make something new and great.
So that's actually a really interesting launching point. So When I'm Grandmaster, you've already just at that point done Want to Be a Pro, and you're going to, where does the idea of When I'm Grandmaster come from?
So this is one of the rare occasions that, like, the song itself, the original, at the time that I had heard it, which was around the time that I made the parody, really like inspired me as a song, right? So When I Get Older, I will, by Kanan, The Waving Flag. It was during the World Cup, I think. I forget which year, obviously 2011 if it came out. Must have been like 2010, maybe, when I heard it. And it was on like every commercial. And I'm like, this song is super sick, right? And just the not even just only the lyrics, but like the beat, just a video of when they were showing the commercial.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a song that just makes people inspired. You know what I mean? Like to
Brings
do
people
something.
together. Like
It just brings people together. It's like that the beat and the potential for what you can say on this specific construction of notes and
of music.
But
yeah.
I'm like, you know what, man? I am in diamond right now. Okay. Or plat. I was plat, obviously, because now I'm just plat. however, but it was one of those things where it's just like there are so many, and this is a point in my StarCraft career where I've kind of been integrated pretty well, into the community, and I've also had the experience of the struggle that is playing StarCraft 2. Like, whew. I know there are a lot of people that want to do the same thing and get better and get to the next league. So that timing of that song and hearing it, and then having the original song mixed in with the remix as well, was like a little idea that I had there. And I just said, you know what, man, I'm going to just give my perspective of my journey. You know what I mean? Like, this is my journey. It's literally an autobiography of my StarCraft journey if you listen to the lyrics. And so many people go through the same thing. And somehow, with the right combination of words and just how I was able to finesse these lyrics together and have them come from a place that is so like, it's like my core, and when it comes to StarCraft, it worked. It really worked because it was such a nice feeling to even say it, and get it out and be like, you know what? It's almost an outlet. Like, I'm just like, yeah, that is how I feel. And guess what? A lot of people feel the same way. So that it was what they say, luck is being, opportunity meeting preparation. It was just, the song fell into my lap, and I happened to be at a time in my StarCraft career that a lot of people get to and might, kind of either not maybe give up, but get really frustrated. And they still have that dream to make it to the top, but at least you're at a point where you've been through the struggle for a bit. Or maybe you're just starting out. But
they could resonate.
It resonated with people from all levels. And luckily, like, I was able to at least have experience to have these funny lyrics that people can be like, yep. So many throws on my door. That's happened to me before. You know what I mean? Like, placing the bronze. I was placing the bronze too, Kwam. Like, like stuff like that. To have that at least wide range of material to draw from and experience, but still be able to hit no matter what level of StarCraft that you play.
When I'm Grandmaster, I will play faster. They'll call me Bourgeois, just like my name was Flash. But now I'm just Plat, and now I'm just Plat, and now I'm just Plat. Oh, laced into bronze, it was so wrong.
It was really cool. It was really something.
For me, hearing that, there's so many things I want to draw on that obviously, many people might see it and see that song as like this lucky break, but a lot of times you have been leading everything up to your life into that particular song, if I understand it, because you understood how to draw on your experiences, to connect people's emotions to your songs when you were in school. These kind of things. Do you, I guess what I'm trying to understand, I want to kind of, after that song hits and it becomes, a sensation. I don't know, like right now it's sitting at 3.8 million, but at this time, where did it get to where you're like, wow, this is a successful song? What did that look like to you?
Stupid, man. It was mind blowing, man. You know what happened? I saw a Kotaku article mention my song, okay? And I was like, we made it! And then a Chinese news outlet, something, boom, they got it. Reddit, I'm just seeing that go. I'm seeing the numbers as well.
Yeah.
But you know what really got me?
What?
was the amount of comments and the actual comments themselves, where it came down to like, dude, like, this is how I feel. This is like a literal explanation of how I feel. You've inspired me to continue to play. You've like these kind of things where they're like targeting me in the best way that I've ever been targeted before.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you are an actual inspiration to me. I'm going to ladder today because of what you did here. I'm going to look at life in a different way because of what you did here. There are people that don't even play StarCraft 2 that are like, you know what, man? I played this when I'm, ranking up in League of Legends at the time, Heroes in New Earth. Like, it transcended StarCraft 2, and it started to bleed into like not just this niche game that we are appreciating right now, but it's actually like lifestyle and just inspiration on a whole nother level that I didn't expect like that. When I made the song, of course I wanted to inspire, but I didn't know that that was possible for me to do at this point. Like, it was so different. It was just like it hit different, like hard. And that made me appreciate it so hard.
What's the comment that has from that incident that has stuck with you forever?
Oh man, there's so many. Oh, Drek, that's a specific one. I don't even know.
Then what's the comment out of all your comments from any of your things that has ever kind of like?
Oh, it's not even a comment. It was I think it was like a message on YouTube when you could like message people after when I'm Grandmaster had come out, and like this dude had I think he was like going through some like really like depressing phase of his life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I'm not gonna, I don't remember his name off the top, but I could pull up the message, but for the sake of maybe I'll find it later. But the general gist of it was that like he was in a very, very dark place in his life, man. And he was like saying that his, listening to not only When I'm Grandmaster, but like the music in general, like pulled him out of that. It kind of gave him the not inspiration, but just like the positive outlook to get through whatever situation that he was actually going through at the time. And then I remember like when because he had sent it when it was happening, and he's like, yeah, man, I'm going through a really dark time right now, but your music is really getting me through this, and hopefully I'll make it out of this. And then it was like a year or two later that he had hit me up again and said like, yo, Tempo, like, what's going on, man? I still listen to your songs, like this and that. Like, we just graduated college, and I still listen to your playlist on the regular. And like, sorry that I haven't come by the stream as much. I don't really watch Twitch, but I appreciate you for the time when I was in my dark place, for getting me through that horrible time in my life. And that, like, it was like a double hitter right there, because at first I mentioned, or at least I replied to him, and it just said, like, yeah, man, keep your head up, bro. I'm glad that my music at least does that for you, and know that this is just a phase in your life, and it's not gonna be forever. Don't give up, because we're going back to my sister. I lost her to suicide, so it was when like you're at a dark place, and then
you've recognized the
yeah, man. And that was what it was, where it's like, if she could have pulled through that, that dark part of her life right then and there, I know she would still be around today. You know what I'm saying? So when I recognize it, when somebody else says it, or at least reaches out, I try to at least be like, yeah, you can hit me up. Discord wasn't around back then. I think it was like Skype and just messages. We just messaged back.
Skype.
Unfortunately, Skype. Yeah, but it was one of those times where I was just like, man, dude, And so, yeah, man.
Yeah. Do you see yourself and your music as saviors?
I mean, I don't like think of it that way, but after looking back on it, I believe so. I actually do believe so. You know what I mean? It's like a humble brag in a way.
No, of course. But
in a real way, though. You know what I mean? Like, from the amount of people that have been impacted and said certain situations they've been in, and like how it just makes them happy. You know what I mean? Like, to bring happiness is something that really makes me happier too. So yeah, I think as far as being a savior, in that aspect,
Yeah. Well,
I'm
uplifting
sure
and
there
bringing
are quite.
people. Yeah, bringing people
Yeah,
out. Yeah.
I would say so. Yeah, in a good way. Yeah.
So after Grandmaster reaches a level of like obvious success, right? Kotaku put you up there. Once Kotaku put you up, you made it, boy. And so after you reach that level of success, what's your thoughts? What do you think next? Your next move?
Yeah, no, that was one of the one of the hardest things as an artist or any content creator is when you have a huge hit. It's like, where do I go from here, and how do I feel about the results of said video that comes out afterwards, or any video or any song,
Or any
because
piece? Yeah.
you've put yourself at this point. And I get it all the time too, where some people will be like, oh, well, not as good as Grandmaster, but and I'm like, dude, like, but what I've learned,
Yeah.
and this is something for every YouTube or any content creator in general, is the comments, right? And what you focus on. So you as a content creator, you're going to be always, you're going to be your own worst critic. You know, you're going to be seeking out the negative comments all the time. Like, those are the ones that are going to stick with you the most. But I've noticed that, like, it's not necessarily like the majority is not like doing that comparison that you beat yourself up in your head, right?
Mm-hmm.
The ones that you beat yourself up on in your head, where it's like, well, here goes another song. I hope it's going to do another 3.8 million. Like, no, you don't have that mentality. You kind of just say, I'm just going to keep on doing my thing. I'm just going to keep on putting this out, and just let people appreciate it for what it is. And if it hits like that, then it hits. But if not, it's still another song, and it's still another experience that is going to have a very similar impact that you were looking for when you first started making music, right? Like, you don't let yourself build up so much that you become jaded by the idea of just making content or making music or making people happy for whatever situation that you're portraying. And, you know, so that's one of the things that I did have to struggle for a bit, because of course I would hear that. And then, you know, no one wants to hear that, where it's just like, yeah, it's not quite that, but, and then usually after but, you kind of disregard anything.
Shut up.
Yeah, right. Like, but I feel like when you become jaded, I do believe that's what happens. And of course, you hold yourself to a certain standard, right? Because you always want to strive for greatness.
Did you struggle with that, or did you already have that ingrained after Grandmaster, or did after you make Grandmaster, did you stumble because you had certain feelings about trying to top Grandmaster, or, you know, and then learn that over the time? So we're looking like this is almost 10 years ago. Obviously, you're a much more mature Kwame. You've gone through your ropes and you have these wisdoms now. But after Grandmaster, do you have that? Are you that wise at that time? Are you like,
at the time, I don't think I was that wise. Okay, no, I don't think I was that wise. But in my mind, I was just like, I'm just gonna make another one.
all right,
It's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
But in your mind, you're like, it's gotta. I don't know, man. It's not gonna be good enough. Like, it's not. This is it. Like, this is the peak in a way. But yeah, I don't think I was that wise. But over time, like, when I start to actually look at some of the stuff that even came out after that and the time period, I love, so, like, my favorite song to listen to, and like a lot of people that come by the stream even say it, like, Just Hit Play, like, you know, like StarCraft Way, you know, Total Biscuit hit it up and was like, yo, man, this is like an original song.
Wow, When I'm Grandmaster, not even your favorite, even though it was really successful.
Oh, no. When I'm Grandmaster is definitely not my favorite.
No. So
it is not.
After When I'm Grandmaster becomes prominent and get held, what does your brother say to you?
Dude, he was bugging. Do you know when I hit him up? I'm like, Kofi, I think I have a hit. Like, he knew that I was doing my thing, and he would always encourage me and whatnot too. But he was just like, dude, and we had some great conversations actually around that time period, where he said, like, you know, that's how it is out here, man. You just gotta like do what you love, man. And sometimes, boom, you're gonna get this huge spike, but you gotta also not get discouraged by not living up to, you know, that point either, because he was going through a point in his career where he had this like feud with Randy Orton, and he had this big like push by WWE, you know, and it was this crazy like big time push that makes you literally like, you know, the hot commodity, right? Of the brand. Okay. But something that happened that he just like, I don't know if they just stopped the push itself. It just slowed down, right? So he had the
momentum, and then it kind of
like the momentum had a peak, and then it just fizzled in a way.
Right.
Okay. All right. And then at the time, even he had said that, you know what I mean? It is what it is, and that's how it is sometimes. And then, so if we're gonna go to that time and that mentality, it's important to note that I think 8 to 9 years later. So this is not last year, but the 2 years, almost to this day. I want to say WrestleMania 2 years ago. Ended up getting another push. Okay, so he's been doing his thing, and he's grinded, and he's continued to do everything that he's, you know, been doing. Stayed humble. Gets his big push for Kofi Mania, and becomes the first African-born wrestler to win the World Heavyweight Championship in WWE. While still just grinding, keeping that faith, and saying, you know what, man, being a hard worker and just saying, hey, man, you're going to have peaks, you're going to have valleys, but never lose faith and never give up hope, and always work hard, man, and keep it up.
And then you take that.
Oh, for sure.
You take that
to heart. Very much so. Like, very much so, right?
I'm gonna hit that button, find my match when I hit play. If I win or if I lose, I'm still improving anyway. Get out there and ladder, and ladder, and ladder, like it doesn't even matter, just hit play.
Coming down to the end, how would you look back on, if you look back on maybe yourself at the beginning, and you could talk to yourself at the very beginning before you released Thank God for Day 9.
Okay.
What would you say to yourself, that person, that Kwame at that age, with what you know now? What would you say to that person?
Man, so I don't think I would say anything different to that person, because that person right there is more of a naive, working off of just, he doesn't have this idea of what to expect at all, right? He's more of like the kind of put things into the universe and hasn't had any experience as far as that goes.
Yeah.
So I don't think I would want to rob him of that kind of, you know,
that kind of like wonder, that kind of like,
yeah,
okay.
it's right. However, what I would do is talk to I'm gonna talk to post when I'm Grandmaster Tempo. Okay. And this is something that happened to me, right? So I ended up wanting to perform at, well, I did perform at the Toronto finals, the WCS ones, where Deer won.
I think, was that?
Yes, season 3 one.
Yeah.
All right. So before I went to that show, I didn't know so much about the technicalities of parody law, or, you know, like big companies that don't want to like risk it.
Ooh.
So I was not able to perform when I'm Grandmaster at that show. Did you notice that?
I did notice. Okay. I was going to ask you, but I was like,
yes,
this is 2013. So this is obviously well after When I'm Grandmaster. But you
And
did
this is a
2 of your originals at that show.
yes. And this was a big thing that discouraged me for a bit. What had happened was I ended up recreating the When I'm Grandmaster beat on my own. I went into FL Studio. I made a whole new rendition of it. I played it out. I made the beat just to kind of bypass, any kind of potential of them saying like, "Oh no, you're copyright infringement here." You know what I mean? So what had happened was I did the whole thing, and even though I showed it to them and I played it, the dudes that listened, they were like, "We appreciate it. However, we just talked to legal, and we don't want to take the chance." All right, so that happened, and I was like, "Well, okay, cool, that's whatever." So I don't know, I would say make more original songs. but in general, it's more so about like understanding, when you escalate to that, like that fast. Because I went from a kid that just was, living with my mom, making music in my room with no real equipment aside from, well, it's better than the pop filter, or better than the sock with the Radio Shack mic, but it was one of those things where it took off so fast that I didn't have time to really be like, all right, what is this whole, legal thing and whatnot. And there was no trouble or anything like that, but it was just more so that companies don't want to put their neck on the line for somebody like me that could potentially jeopardize anything for a live performance. And I was so excited to do it. And then when I recreated it, and I was like, yeah, this is it. Like I literally made the beat. Like I can show you the freaking project file right here. And
so
they were a little bit too big.
So what would you tell post When I'm Grandmaster Tempo?
I would just tell them to, hopefully get a When I'm Grandmaster like hit with an original song. Easy peasy. but in general, it would be to I don't know. It's tough. Don't get discouraged by when a company says no. Don't let that like literally make it so that you don't, or that you get discouraged from making more music. You know what I mean? Like,
I know
when it comes down to it, that hurts. It's a blow where it's like, yeah, I have all this stuff and people want to hear this. So when somebody's like, hey, when are you going to do this song? And then I can't physically do it. Even though it hurts right there and then, don't let that discourage you from making new music, right? Like, I kind of like shut down for a bit and just like, well, I'm just going to cast and I'm going to stream and I'm going to like get over this, and then I think I made another song a couple years after, but that hurt, man. It totally hurt.
Yeah. Well, I hope that you don't ever stop making music.
Thanks, bro.
I think it makes our scene so much more
I love it.
Rich.
I love it, man. And I look back and I'm like, I go on my nostalgia trip and I just listen. I'm just like, man, this is fun. Like, this is just fun. Like, and I look back and look at the videos and it's just great.
We're gonna come close to the end, but I wanted to let you know, and I don't know if I ever told you, is that when I first discovered you, the first time I discovered you was I went to a StarCraft tournament, and I want to say it was NASL. I will have to say or WCS. And some guy comes up to me and he says, "Can you sign this?" And I was like, "Sure, absolutely." And I signed it, and I was like,
I think I know where this is going.
And I hand it back to him, and he's like, "Thanks, Tempo," and he leaves.
No.
And I was like, and I go back to my friends in the line, and I was like, "Oh man, I just signed something, man. I feel like, my esports career is really taking off, man. I'm really getting somewhere." But he called me Tempo.
Oh man, that's funny, man. I never knew that.
goodness. I think it was Enderstone I told, and he's like, "Oh, you need to look up Tempo first."
Oh yeah. He's like, oh.
And that's how I first learned about
No
you.
shit.
And
Wow.
that was my.
That's hilarious.
Oh goodness.
Oh my god, that is yeah. Thanks, Tempo.
I was like, oh, sure. Why not? I just had my first autograph. Oh, goodness. All right.
Oh, that's awesome.
I want to say, Kwame, thank you so much for sitting here and going through this with me. And
Hell yeah.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you a lot.
Oh man, we appreciate you too, Drake. My cheeks hurt now.